Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.
Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, for this is the Feast of Dedication. Yasharal and Yahudah. As a culture, as a people, we are called to remember the day of dedication. The dedication of the temple by Shlomo and the rededication of the temple under Maccabees, Judas. Yahuah, we give you praise. Because the dedication is not just the natural temple, but it is the spiritual house, the body of Yahuah and Yahusha in you. Yahuah, I pray right now in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, by the word of truth, the Basora of truth, the word made flesh, the word that you've given Yahushua HaMashiach, he has given me and I've kept it. I'm praying that by this Basora, this Torah of truth, you will make alive and quicken those that are yours. Yahuah, take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign. Yahuah, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise. I thank you, Yahuah, because I have an expectation that you are going to gather your people, Yasharal and Yahudah, those that you have called, those that you have chosen, and those that are of the nations that you have called out from among to be separate. I'm believing that you are gathering us in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Yahuah, I praise you right now in the name of Yahushua for your Torah of truth. I praise you, Yahuah, for your Torah of truth. I praise you for your Torah of truth. Through faith in Hamashiach, I give you praise. Yahuah, I praise you, I praise you, I praise you, I praise you, I praise you. Yahuah, Yahusha, Yahuah, Yahusha, I praise you. Yah salvation. Yahuah, I give you praise. I thank you, Yahuah, for waking up the sleeping lion, rousing him up. Young lions, rousing them up. Young lionesses, rousing them up. Young lionesses, rousing them up. Yahuah, Kurabasa, the nation. Kurabasa, Yeturu, Kushechita. Yahuah, I give you praise. I give you praise. Yahuah, allow the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuah, may I not cause anyone to stumble, cause anyone to be turned out of the way. Yahuah, that I will cause anyone to stumble, anyone to turn out of the way. Yahuah, this is about the Torah of truth. This is about the Basora of truth. And I submit myself to the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuah, as a righteous servant of you, I submit myself to you. Use me, Ruach HaKodesh. Use me, Father and Son in me. Use me. By your Ruach HaKodesh, I give you praise. I submit myself to you. Listen. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, listen. We are listening to Pastor John J. Tatum's off that I Got Some Truth album, right? This song is titled A Worship Melody. Yeah, it's a worship melody. It's I don't own the rights to this music. Hallelujah. We are remembering in obedience to Torah, obedience as people who have heritage, as people who have a culture, as a people who have Yahuah, who has a son, Yahushua HaMashiach, who has made the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh freely available to us. We're remembering this dedication with the expectation of understanding now it's looking back, right? Because by the Ruach HaKodesh now the temple is in you. The key is, have you received the Ruach HaKodesh since you believe? Right? Because with the Ruach HaKodesh, you know, the temple is constantly in a state of being pure. You're remembering the temple that was established by hands, building structures, right? The restoration of that. But listen, the temple of Yahuah, through Yahushua HaMashiach, is in us. Now, it does not mean that we don't honor and reverence the feast days, the dedication, because it's historical. It represents something important to us in our history. But listen, the purification should have occurred having received the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. Yeah. The dedication of the temple, your temple, right? Your temple, which is the temple of Yahuah. Your temple should have the Ruach HaKodesh, should be set apart already. Every day you get up, it should be set apart. Oh, every day it should be dedicated. Listen, we belong to him. This is Yahuwah's house. This is Yahusha's house. This is where Yahuah and Yahusha dwells. This is where they take up residence now. You get together with the power of the Ruach HaKodesh to remember this day as assembling as a nation of people. The recognition is that we are now the temple of Yahuah. Listen, again, a worship melody off of We Got Some Truth CD, right? By none other than Pastor John J. Tatum, and I don't own the rights to this music. Listen, we going in. Because I have some truth, right? Well, I have some truth that I have to get out, right? I have some absolute truth, some basora of truth. I have the truth to speak in love. Yeah, the Torah of truth, right? The basora of truth that I have to share, that I have to declare. It's not something that I cannot not do. I have to be found daily in the temple giving a word of the basora of truth, right? This temple, this structured synagogue that I'm in, right? This, y'all don't hear me. I have to declare the basora of truth to those who have an ear to hear. It ain't for everybody. Because everybody don't have an ear to hear to receive the basora of truth. Everybody don't have an ear to receive the Torah of truth. Everybody don't have an ear to hear. Yahuah has called some. He has chosen some. And those who hear his voice are the called, and they are the chosen. They'll receive this witness. Oh, yeah, they'll receive this witness. Because it's Ruach. Listen. The Feast of Dedication, right? It's the Feast of Dedication, but to celebrate the Feast of Dedication without Hamashiach is a waste of time. It's vanity. I know what I'm... Listen, to participate in the Feast of Dedication without the revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, right? Who has now come to live in you, if you have received the Ruach HaKodesh, anything other than that is vanity. You mean to tell me, you gonna tell me, man, that me keeping the feast days in the Torah without Yahushua HaMashiach is unrighteous? Yup. Yep, because in Yahushua HaMashiach was the fulfillment of the Torah. Yahushua is the fulfillment of the Torah. Yahushua is the Torah made flesh. Yahusha kept the Feast of Dedication. But Yahusha says that he that believeth on me and my Father will come and dwell in him and be in him. We will tabernacle with him. We will make our abode in him. Listen, the Feast of Dedication without Yahushua HaMashiach is just a waste of time. Because it's not going to profit you nothing. Celebrating the Feast of Dedication in Yahushua HaMashiach and having been baptized with the Ruach HaKodesh and having been water baptized, but without the Ruach HaKodesh ain't gonna profit you nothing. Listen, everything goes through Yahushua HaMashiach. The Feast of Dedication is a pure feast, a righteous feast. It's a dedication to the disciplines of the temple and of the service and the restoration. Before Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahuah strengthened Judas Maccabees and his brethren to go in and take authority and seize the wickedness that was occurring in the temple and clean it out. And then Yahushua came. Yahushua said, look, temple's going to be destroyed. 3 days. Temple's going to be destroyed. And I'm going to raise it up. It's going to be raised. Listen! He was talking about his flesh. The curtain was rent in two. From top to bottom. Or from bottom to top. It was rent in half. Listen. Dedication is not anything without Yahushua HaMashiach's fulfillment. It's observances. You can't even offer up a sacrifice because it's been done away with in Yahushua HaMashiach. No. I won't say that. They have been fulfilled in Yahushua HaMashiach because there's going to be a time when we're going to have sacrifices again. So it's not eliminated. It's not like it's done away with as according to Torah says, oh, it's finished. No, that's not what I meant. Yahushua HaMashiach fulfilled the need of having physical sacrifices because he became the perfect sacrifice to put your temple in a state of righteousness, creating dwellings for him and the Father to be in the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen. Let's go in. So the Feast of Dedication. The Feast of Dedication should always begin with the actual dedication of the temple that was done by Solomon, with all the sacrifices and all the things that Shlomo did. Right? Shlomo. Let's go to 2 Chronicles, the 6th chapter. Let's look at 2 Chronicles, the 6th chapter. Right? Now, Shlomo prayed a prayer of dedication. We're gonna go through this prayer of dedication, and we're going to look at how it relates to the same dedication. Because see, listen, this temple that Solomon established, that Yahuah gave to him to build, right? Because Yahuah don't really dwell in buildings made of stone. You can't house him. Listen, he gave us the Ruach HaKodesh, him and Yahushua in us in measure. We can't house him. Not in this body. Yahushua could because Yahushua didn't know any sin. He could have all power in the Shamayim and the Arets. He could have the Ruach HaKodesh without measure. We can't. And then Yahuah don't dwell in temples made by hand, but he visited this place. He put his spirit in this place to visit this place. Shlomo said, let's start at the 14th verse of that 6th chapter of 2nd Chronicles. And said, O Yahuah, Eluah of Yasharah, there is none like unto thee in the Shamayim or in the Eretz, right? Which keepeth covenant, right? So Yahuah keeps his covenant. Yahuah is not a man that he should lie, or the son of man that he should repent. Yahuah ain't never have to say, oops, oh, sorry, made a mistake, my bad. Never. Never. He keeps covenant. He keeps his word. He's true to his Torah. He keeps covenant, and you show mercies unto thy servants that walk before thee with all their hearts. Listen, the scripture says in Exodus 20:6, Yahuah shows mercies unto thousands of them that love him and keep his Besorah. His mercy are for those that keep his Besorah. He shows mercy unto thy servants that walk before them with all their hearts. Yahuah shows mercies unto thousands of them that love him. Shows mercies with all their hearts by keeping his commandments, right? He says, thou which has kept with thy servant David my father that which thou hast promised him, and spake with thy mouth, and hast fulfilled it with thine hands, as it is this day. So Shlomo was saying, listen, Yahuah, everything you've told my father David, you've done. Even to the point of allowing me to establish this temple. Because David couldn't do it. David wanted to build the temple for you, but you would say, no, you got too much blood in your hands. You can't build the temple. I'm going to let your son Shlomo build the temple. You're going to store up everything that he's going to need to make this temple come to pass. You're going to, everything you've conquered, all the riches that you have gotten, every nation that you subdued, everybody that's paying tribute to you is going to go towards the establishing of the kingdom, of the temple, right? So he says, right, now therefore, O Yahuah, Eluah of Yasharah, keep with thy servant David, my father, that which thou hast promised him, saying, thou shalt not fail thee a man in my sight to sit upon the throne of Yasharah, yet so that thy children take heed to their ways to walk in my law, as thou hast walked before me. So listen, he's saying, listen, Yahuah, keep your promise. Keep your promise, Yahuah, that you made to my father in reference to the sons of David maintaining the throne, right? As long as they do what Torah says. Now, we understand that it was the king's responsibility to meditate in the Torah day and night. That was his job, other than performing his kingly duties. His responsibility was to meditate on the Torah of Yahuah daily, in which David did. David meditated on the Torah. It became a poetry for him. It caused him to develop musical instruments. It was the Ruach HaKodesh in David. Listen, he spent time in the Torah, right? And that's what Shlomo was asking Yahuah to make sure that Yahuah did exactly what he had told his father he would do, right? He said, yet so that thy children taketh heed to their way to walk in my law. You got to keep the Torah, right? You got to keep the Torah, right? As thou hast walked before me. Then he says, now then, O Yahuah, Eluah of Yasharah, let thy word be verified, which thou hast spoken unto thy servant David. Okay, you verify your word. Verify your word, Yahuah, right? Demonstrate, right, that what you have said to my father concerning the nation of Israel and concerning the seed of David, verify it, right? He said, but listen. But will Yahuah in very deed dwell with man on the earth? Behold, heavens and the heavens of heavens cannot contain thee. How much less will this house? He understood that the temple was a place where Yahuah would visit it with his Ruach, with his spirit, right? But there is no way in the world that the building can contain him. Couldn't contain him. Listen. Couldn't contain him, right? He says, but will Yahuah in very deed dwell with men on the earth? Will you dwell with men in the earth, right? Will you come down from the Shamayim and dwell with men in the earth, right? He says, behold, the heavens and the heavens of heavens cannot contain thee. How much less this house which I have built? Have respect, therefore, to the prayer of thy servant and to his supplication, O Yahuah my Yahuah, to hearken unto thee, to hearken unto the cry and the prayer which thy servant has prayed before thee. So here he's saying, listen, Yahuah, I know it's not possible for you to first of all come down and dwell in the earth. It's not possible. It's just not possible because the Shamayim and the Rets can't contain you. The Shamayims and the Rets can't contain you. I know you can't be contained in this building, in this structure, right? Right? He says, I know you can't, right? But he says, but that thine eyes may be open unto this house, open up upon this house day and night, upon the place whereof thou hast said that thou wouldest put thy name there, right? To hearken unto the prayers of thy servant, prayers towards this place. So, listen. This is what Yahushua HaMashiach fulfilled in us. This is how Yahushua HaMashiach established Yahuwah's kingdom in the earth in us. Yahushua had to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah 1 explains that how Yahuwah had revealed to him who Yahushua was by, at the time he was being baptized, he saw the Ruach HaKodesh descending upon Yahushua, right? The Ruach HaKodesh descending upon Yahushua and abiding, making his abode with Yahushua, right? This Ruach HaKodesh that Yahushua in this earth, right? Because he was the Father in this earth, contained in earthen vessels. The earth could not contain Yahuwah, right? But what it did do is put Yahushua in the earth with the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah and establish his temple, his body, as the temple of Yahuwah Yahuwah in the Eretz, right? And establish his kingdom. Hold on. Cut it out, Kadar! Establish it. So here we have him saying that thine eyes may be open upon this day and night, upon this place whereof thou hast said that thou wouldest put thy name there, to hearken unto the prayer which thy servant prayed towards this place. Hearken therefore unto the supplication of thy servant and of thy people Yasharal, which they shall make towards this place. Hear thou from thine dwelling, even from the Shamayim, and when thou hearest, forgive. Listen. Shlomo prayed to the Father to establish this temple as a place where the people of Yahuah could come, right, and offer up sacrifices unto Yahuah and have Yahuah hear him, right? Yahusha came, right, as the temple of Eluah, established in the earth with the Ruach HaKodesh, full of the Ruach HaKodesh, the fullness upon which Yahuah has said, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased, has established his temple in the person of his son Yahushua Mashiach in the earth, right? This same Yahushua HaMashiach was the temple to which they were to come, the word of Yahuah, the Torah made flesh, right? To come and offer up to him, to Yahushua, the sacrifice of repentance. Yahuwah give you praise for the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen. He said, hearken therefore unto the supplication. 2 Chronicles 6:21. Hearken therefore unto the supplication of thy servant and of thy people, Yasharal. Yahushua said, I came to the lost sheep of Israel. He came to his people. Hearken therefore unto the supplication of thy servant and of thy people, Yasharal, which they shall make towards this place. Hear from the dwelling place, from the Shamayim, right? And when thou hearest, forgive, right? Forgive. Now listen, right? You have to understand that they dedicated this temple, right? But this temple, right? This temple made of stone, this elaborate, beautiful work of artistry, right? It's beautiful, spectacular, splendor, gold, silver. It was a type of what was in the Shamayim, right? It was just the type, right? Right? It was a shadow because the temple, right? The real temple came after. Yeah. The real temple came after Judas Maccabees. The real temple is Yahushua HaMashiach. Because in Yahushua HaMashiach, the Ruach of Yahuah could dwell. And Yahushua himself said, listen, this temple will be destroyed. 3 days. Come on. Whoo! Oh, Yahuah, Yahuah, Yahuah. That's not what I want. Yahusha. Cool. Yahusha. Okay. Yahusha. You hook it on the second chapter. And Yahushua, and the Yahudiim's Passover was at hand, and Yahushua went up to Jerusalem, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and exchanges of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of a small cord, he drove them out of the temple and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the money changers and overthrew the tables, right? And he said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, make not my Father's house a house of merchandise, right? House of merchandise, right? The temple in Jerusalem. The second temple that was built. He said, and his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of thine house haveth eaten me up. Now they remembered it because Yahushua had told them. Because they didn't just have no epiphany of the Torah, right? He says, then Yahushua then answered the Jews and said unto him, what sign shewest thou unto us, seeing that thou doest these things? What sign are you going to show us to demonstrate to us this is your Father's house? Right? Yahushua said, okay. Yahushua answered and said unto them, to destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Listen. Yahushua is the temple of Yahuah. Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? Right? But he spake of them of his body. Yahuah doesn't dwell in temples made of stone. Shlomo explained this, but Yahuah, right? But because Yahushua was bringing the parallel of the real temple. The temple that Yahuah is actually dwelling in, and those that he will dwell in. Listen, we're dedicated now. Feast of dedication, we celebrate now because we are the temple of Yahuah. We have been swept and cleaned, right? Because we don't sin no more because we have the Ruach HaKodesh. So we don't need a day to dedicate to Yahuah. Listen. We reverence and honor the dedication of these days, but they're fulfilled in Yahushua HaMashiach. He has fulfilled all things. Listen. Judas Maccabees and the Apocrypha, right? It calls to reference the Temple of Solomon, right? And how the celebration of the dedication of the temple was 8 days, right? He says, so Solomon, let me see, this is in the Apocrypha. This is in Maccabees, the 2nd chapter, and we're going to look at the 12th verse, right? So Solomon kept those 8 days, right? The same thing also were reported in the writings and the commentary of Nehemiah, and how the founding of library gathered the acts of the kings and the prophets and of David and the epistles of the kings concerning the holy gifts. Right? the things that are used in the temple, right? In like manner also Judas Maccabees, right? Gathered together all those things that were lost by reason of the wars we had, and they remained with us, right? Wherefore, if ye have need thereof, send some to fetch them unto you, right? Whereas we then are about to celebrate the purification, right? Dedication. Well, we have written unto you, and ye shall do well to keep the same days. Because Judas Maccabees came in and cleaned house. Him and his men, he got before Yahuah, and he saw that the wickedness that these Hellenized Hebrews, these Grecians, these Hellenized Hebrews. Let's go back to Maccabees, the first chapter. Let's go to Maccabees, the first chapter. Now, Maccabees, the first chapter, right? It talks about how the second chapter. Let's go. Let's start at the 10th verse. He says, in the 184 years, the people that were at Jerusalem and in Judea and the council of Judea sent greetings and health to Archebulus, whatever his name is, king of Polinius, master, who was of the stock of the anointed priest and of the Yahudim that were in Egypt. Insomuch as Yahuah had delivered us from great peril, we thank him highly as having been in battle against the king, right? Right? He says, for he casted them out and fought into the holy cities when the leaders of Persia and the armies of him that sent seemed invincible, right? They were slain in the temple of Nia by the deceit of Neas the priest. For Antiochus, as though he would marry her, Antiochus, I want to go down some further because that's not as much as what I want to get to. Where is that? Where's that? Where I'm looking at you. Sacrifices. Those days are scattered and delivered. Okay. Is it the second chapter? Moshe. I had it earlier. I don't know what to do with it. Anywho, not gonna waste time. There were wicked men that were Hebrews that convinced Antiochus, right, that we needed to become Greeks, Hellenized. Everybody needed to be Greeks, right, in order to, right, all be one, right? Now, you had some Jews that, look, no, I can't go for that. No, can't do. I can't go for that. No, can do. Can't do it, right? But you had these Jews that became heathen. They became Gentiles. They gave up their Hebraic customs, culture, and tradition because of how they were delivered by this Greek who took over the Persians, right? And they just wanted to yield everything to him, right? Oh yeah, we ain't gonna be Hebrews no more because it don't pay to be Hebrews. No, don't pay to be Hebrews. We want to be Greeks. We want to participate in your sports, your activities, your Omega Psi Phis and your Deltas and your sororities and your fraternities. We want in. We want in. We want to participate. We want to be like you. Right? But you had Judas Maccabees. And all of this profane stuff that these new Jews, these new Grecians, these Hellenized Jews were allowing to happen in the temple. Sacrifices that were unrighteous and unholy. Judas Maccabees and some brothers consulted Yahuah and got downright mad and got in there and drove them all out under the power of Yahuah. And they weren't big in number. It held off a whole Greek army. And Yahuah was with them because of their righteousness to preserve the temple that was his, right? Yahusha, Yah salvation, is that temple. The temple that was made of stone was coming down. The temple of Yahusha was coming down, but it was being raised up. The dedication no longer had to consist of you remembering a temple, a building, but you are to remember Yahushua HaMashiach. And you are to walk as Yahusha did. See, listen. You are now the temple of Yahuah. You had the Ruach HaKodesh. Second Chronicles, the 6th chapter, 21st verse. He says, if these people, Yisrael, be put to the worst before the enemy, because they have sinned against thee, and shall return and confess thy name in prayer, and make supplication in thine house, then hear thou from the Shamayim and forgive their sins of the people of Yasharal, and bring them again into the land which thou hast given unto their fathers. That was prophetic, because that's exactly what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. He says, then hear from the Shamayim and forgive the sins of thy servants and thy people Yasharal, right? When thou hast taught them the good way, wherein they should walk. All they needed to do was keep the Torah. And send rain unto the land. Listen. It is your sin that separates you from Yahuah. It is your sin. It is your disobedience to the Torah. It is your sin that separates you from Yahushua HaMashiach. But see, with the Ruach HaKodesh, you don't sin no more. Listen. He says, then, that's 29, 28. If there be death in the land, right? If there be pestilence, if there be blasting, if there be mildew, if there be locusts, there be caterpillar, there be enemies, besiege the city, whatsoever sore or whatsoever sickness there be, then what prayer or what supplication soever shall be made of any man of thy people Yasharal, when every one shall know his own sore and his own grief, shall spread forth his hands unto this house, then hear from the Shaman. Listen, he praying Deuteronomy 28th chapter. Yahuah had a covenant with his people. Yahuah had a covenant with his people. His people were to be called by his name. He's praying Deuteronomy 20th chapter. See, because these are testimonies and witnesses to the fact that the covenant has been breached. It's been broken. When you are having sickness, when you are having mildew and locusts and caterpillars and blasting, when the land is duress and there is pestilence, right? Your people have sinned. But if we turn, then hear him. Now listen. And this goes on. This goes on. Solomon jumps down to the 38th chapter. He says, if they return unto thee with all their hearts and with all their souls in the lands of their captivity. Whither they have carried them captive, and pray towards the land which thou gavest their father, and the city which thou hast chosen, towards the house which thou hast built and not. Listen. Yahushua filled all things. You don't pray to the temple. Yahushua is the temple. You don't pray towards Jerusalem. Yahushua. You pray towards Yahushua. Yahushua is the temple. You lift your hands and your heads to the Shamayim. And you pray to the Father in the name of Yahushua. Listen, you have to understand that Yahushua fulfilled the feast of dedication. Yahushua went in and kicked everybody out of his father's house. He was purging the temple. And in the same breath, he became the temple. Y'all don't hear me. In the same breath, he became the temple. He said this temple will be, how did he say it? Let's say, how did Yahushua say it? Yahushua said it like this. Yahushua says, Yahushua answered them and said unto them in John, the 2nd chapter, the 19th verse, destroy this temple and in 3 days it will rise up. See, because they was going to destroy that temple. That temple was going down. 70 AD, that was going to happen. That temple was going to be wiped out. Listen. But see, Yahushua is an eternal temple. And listen, right? Yahushua said, once you come to me, right, and you repent, right, and be baptized for the remission of your sins, right, and walk in the newness of life by the Ruach HaKodesh, having received the Ruach, right, now I'm dwelling in you. Me and the Father. Listen, Yahushua made provisions for your temple to be dedicated. You was washed clean by the blood of the Lamb, and then he put his Ruach HaKodesh in you and made you sons and daughters of Yahuah. Y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. Listen. Yahushua was the dedication of the temple. Listen, Mark says it this way, right? Mark 14, the 58th verse, right? He says it this way. He says, no, wait, let me make sure I got that right, Mary. Let me see. Oh yeah, he says, Mark 14:58. And we heard him say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made with hands. Listen, they didn't hear it right. Listen, you're going to destroy this temple, right? With hands, right? Right? But Yahuah is going to raise it up. The dedication of the temple, right? You're the temple. Yahushua was the temple that restored the temples. He made them else. Oh, man. Listen, Yahuwah is going to do exactly what he says. All things have been fulfilled except that which remains to the end. But Yahushua has already established the temple. It's in you. Until the temple of the Shamayim is brought down to the Eretz. You're the place where Yahuwah dwells. You're the person that they come to. They come to hear the Basora of truth, so that you can remove their burden and destroy their yoke as a representative of Yahuwah. Not as Yahuwah or not being Yahusha, but because you have his Ruach, you have the ability and the power to do things. Signs follow you. So listen, listen, let's go here. Where am I looking? Where's that at? Where's that? Let's go to 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. Yahushua was the temple. Judas Maccabees, Solomon dedicated temples made by hand. They dedicated temples that were made by hand. They dedicated and rededicated instruments that were chosen to be used in these temples that were made by hand. Yahushua himself went into the temple and swept it clean. Chased out all them people that was doing wickedness in this temple, buying and selling the temple of Yahuwah. Listen. Yeah. Yahushua said, listen, this temple's going down, but in 3 days it's coming up again. Yahushua is making provisions for you to receive the Ruach of him and his Father in you. Right? You have this treasure. Listen. Let's do this. 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. He says, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought unto the power of all things, right? Now, in order to understand what he was saying, you have to go up and read in the Corinthians in reference to he was talking about lawsuits. He was talking about certain things that were being done, right? He was like, well, let's do this. I gotta go like this. He says, dare any of you having a matter against another go to the law, which means to go to people outside of the assemblies, right? Or outside of the administration of operation in the kingdom way of doing things in Yahuwah, right? He says, do ye not know that the Kodashim shall judge the world, right? And if the world should be judged by you. Are ye worthy? Are you unworthy to judge in the smallest of matters? So listen, right? What is he saying? Yahuah has put his Ruach HaKodesh in you. And in so doing, he is establishing his kingdom, right? His rulership, his order, right? And because of his Ruach HaKodesh, there comes administrations, right? Administrations and operations, right? That are going to judge the world, right? Right? We are his elves in the earth, and we are going to judge the world. The 12 disciples are going to oversee the 12 tribes, right? Right? And we who Yahushua has placed his Ruach HaKodesh in is going to judge in his kingdom. We are going to be his royal subjects. Ooh, y'all better hear this word. He says, do ye not know that the Kodeshim, those who have the Ruach HaKodesh, shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you who have the Ruach HaKodesh, are ye unworthy to judge in the smallest of matters? Know ye not that we shall judge angels? Yeah, don't you know that by the Ruach HaKodesh, when we are changed, now we ain't judging angels now. We ain't judging them now. We have to wait till the moment that he has quickened us and changed us, right? Right? Unto the fullness of the Ruach HaKodesh life that causes us to walk in eternalness, right? When that occurs, we will judge angels. We ain't judging angels now. We ain't judging angels now, right? That's still for an appointed time, right? How much more things that pertain to this life? Now, it's a known fact that we gonna judge angels because Yahuah and Yahushua has said it. By the Ruach HaKodesh, we know that these things are going to happen because, listen, when he changes us in that moment, in the twinkling of an eye, right? The dead and Hamashiach are going to be changed and raised to the place of service in the kingdom of Yahuah, right? In the kingdom of Yahuah, changed, right, to serve. And we who are alive are going to be quickened. We're going to be made alive as Yahushua Mashiach is when he was after the resurrection and appeared before his disciples, right? So we recognize that we will judge angels. Okay, so he said, if you can't do that, you can't judge things in reference to this life. He says, if then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are the least esteemed amongst the assembly. You know, find some people who have the Ruach, you know, the people who have the Ruach HaKodesh, right? That's kind of the least to judge these matters, right? Not these people who you know, not people who you know are going to judge. Man, listen, you know, listen. We have the Ruach HaKodesh, right? We else, right? But listen, that's why we that's why we have to walk in the truth of the Torah. That's why we got to keep the Basor of truth, right? Because he says here, right? He says, you got to, he says, find them pertaining to life. He says, if then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set to judge who are least esteemed, right? In the assembly, right? I speak to your shame. Is it so that there is not a wise among you? No, not one that can judge between the brethren. So listen, right? Evidently, you have people who don't know how to judge fairly It would seem like they didn't know how to judge fairly. He said, you can't deal. See, and that's the thing, man. You know, people have to be constantly reminded and taught, and the Ruach has to be reaffirmed. That's why you have to maintain a disciplined Torah life. You have to walk in the Torah of truth. You have to be disciplined in the word of Yahuah. You can't judge a matter, right? It's to your shame, right? That you can't have, you can't find no wise men among you, that you got to run to. And you know what? That's just the way it is, man. You know, you get people that get to moving and running, and they ain't led by the Ruach HaKodesh. You got the Ruach HaKodesh. You got to be led by the Ruach HaKodesh. You got to be led by the Ruach HaKodesh. If Yahuah has put his spirit, his Father's spirit in you, then you got to yield to the Ruach HaKodesh. He said, brother going to the law against brothers. me going to the law against my brother in Yasharal and Yahudah that are Yahudim, and we both got the Ruach HaKodesh, and I'm suing him. Yet carnal, right? He says, now for this is utterly a fault among yourselves to go to the law. And that's what he was talking about, going to the law. And then he gets down to the point and he says, we're in, nay, ye do wrong and defraud, and that's your brother. When you do wrong, and when you do wrong to your brother, listen, first of all, the Ruach HaKodesh should be revealing these things to you. You should be wise enough in the Ruach HaKodesh to know what the Ruach is saying. You know, you got to submit yourself to the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, you are the temple of Yahuah. You are. See, the difference between us and Yahusha is that Yahusha didn't know no sin. We know sin. Yahusha didn't know no sin. He didn't know sin. I mean, he wasn't born in sin. He wasn't shapen in iniquity. His father was his seed. And then though he could sin, he refused to. He had the Ruach HaKodesh in him. He had the Ruach of his father in him. He was a Torah made flesh. He was the spoken word of Yahuah. Yahusha. He said, now therefore there is utterly a fault among you, because you go to the law one with another. Why do ye not rather take wrong? You know, why don't you rather just receive it and walk in forgiveness, right? Why do ye not rather suffer yourself to be defrauded? Why not? Why you gonna go to the world system of operation to justify a wrong? He said, nay, ye are wrong. He said, and defraud, and that your brother. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahuah? Listen, if your brother's doing something wrong to you, then he's doing it and he ain't righteous. The unrighteous ain't inheriting the kingdom of Yahuah. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahuah? Those that wrong and defraud their brother. That's a violation of the Torah. Listen, if you do wrong to your brother, you violate the Torah. You got to repay that. But you're going to go to the law, right, to this system, and expect this system to correct your problem, when in actuality, you should probably just go ahead and suffer it. Because you know what? They're going to be judged anyway. They ain't inheriting the kingdom. Listen. The unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahuah. The unrighteous aren't inheriting the kingdom of Yahuah. Those that defraud you are unrighteous. They're not inheriting the kingdom of Yahuah. He said, be not deceived, neither idolaters and fornicators, fornicators, and that's all illicit sexual porneia sins. Idolaters, adulterers, effeminates, abusers of themselves with mankind. Listen, none of these folk going into the Shamayim. Thieves, covetous, drunkards, revilers, extorters shall inherit the kingdom of Yahuah. For such were some of you. You were like this, but you have been washed. Yeah, you've been washed in baptism. Listen, you have been ceremonially been dedicated your temple. Your temple has been ceremonially dedicated. For such were some of you, but you have been washed. You have been sanctified. By how have you been set apart? The same way Yahushua was set apart. Yahuchanan said, I beheld the Spirit, or the Ruach HaKodesh, descending upon Yahushua HaMashiach and abiding on him. The same is going to baptize with the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, that's how we are sanctified. That's why we are dedicated. You should be dedicated once and for all in Yahushua HaMashiach. Yeah, because if he's quickened you, right, you are dead to trespasses. You were dead. You were. He's saying now, but such were some of you, but you have been washed. You have been sanctified, set apart. What sanctifies you? The Ruach HaKodesh and the Besorah of truth. Look, the Besorah of truth is the Ruach of truth. It sanctifies you. It sets you apart. But ye are justified. You have been made justified. They used to say justification is just as if you had not sinned. That's what they used to tell us. But the justification has been processed in you through sanctification and washing. That's water baptism, and that's the Ruach HaKodesh, right? And it goes on to say, you are justified in the name of Yah salvation, Yahuah salvation, Yahushua HaMashiach, and by the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuah. The same Ruach that raised Yahushua HaMashiach from the dead, that same Ruach that Yahushua said this temple will be destroyed. You will destroy this temple. You will kill me. And in 3 days, I am going to rise from the dead by the power of the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuah. And I'm going to have my blood sprinkled on the altar in the Shamayim. And I am going to give you the Ruach HaKodesh that's going to sanctify you, me and the Father in you, and you will now become the temple. Why? Because you've been washed. You have been ceremonial washed. Through baptism. And you've been sanctified through having received the Ruach HaKodesh. All right, let's jump down. Let's jump down. He says, well, no, let's go. He says, all things are lawful unto me. Why? all things that are lawful are the things that he has no violation of sin for, because he's lawful. And just because I can don't mean that I should. All things aren't expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of anything. Oh, man, listen, you got to understand. Listen, Yahuah, he says, meat is for the belly and belly is for meat. But Yahuah shall destroy them both. He was talking about meat that was offered to idols. An idol is nothing to me. Look, you could take a porterhouse. You could take an ox and offer it up on the temple of Baal, right? And they could cut that meat up and give it to me, and I can eat it, right? Because Baal ain't nothing to me. But it's not expedient, because you know what? I have people that might have been Baal worshipers. So I'm not going to do anything to cause them to sin. It's not expedient, because I care for my brother. He said, but now the body is not for fornication, but Adonai, and Adonai for the body. Listen. Why did he say fornication? Because obviously they were having problems with fornication. He says, and Yahuah hath raised up Adonai, and will also raise up us by his own power. You have he quickened, who were once dead in your trespasses and sins. Now, the resurrection, right? The raising up is not the rapture. That's a Christian doctrine. That's not what he's talking about, right? He says he raised up Yahusha, right? For Yahuah have both raised up Adonai, right? Yahusha, and will raise us up by his own power. What did he say in Ephesians? Ephesians, it says, you have he quickened who were dead in your trespasses and sins, where in times past, Ephesians 2:2, where in times past he walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit, the Ruach, the Ruach of Hasatan, that now worketh in the children of disobedience. He raised you up. Right. Let's go over to the first chapter. First chapter, 13th verse. And whom after ye trusted, having heard the word of the truth, the Besorah of your salvation, and whom after that ye believed, you were sealed with the Ruach HaKodesh of promise, right? Which is the down payment, the earnest of your inheritance, to the redemption of the purchased possession, unto the praise of his glory, right? Wherefore also I heard of your faith in your Adonai Yahusha, and your love for the saints, for other brethren of the saints of the Kodeshim, right? Cease not to give thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers. Verse 17 of that first chapter, that the Yahuah of our Adonai Yahusha HaMashiach, the Father of glory, may give unto you the Ruach HaKodesh of wisdom, revelation, and the knowledge of him, right? The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that ye may know what is the hope of his calling, with the riches of the glory of the inheritance in the saints, right? This Ruach HaKodesh, right? This dedicated temple. This dedicated temple. Listen. Yahuah. I pray by the Ruach HaKodesh that your people who have an ear to hear will hear your Besorah right now, that they would recognize that Yahusha is the temple. And Yahusha was destroyed and was raised And that temple is now us. Yahuwah, I pray that they would receive that. Listen, the exceeding greatness of his power to us who believe, according to the working of his mighty power, which he wrought in Hamashiach when he raised him from the dead. Raised him from the dead. Raised him from the dead. Raised him from the dead and set him at his own hand in the Shamayim in heavenly places, far above principalities and powers and dominions and might, and every name that is named, not only in the world, but in that which is to come. And having put all things under his feet, and gave him to be the head over all things to the assemblies, which is his body, which filleth all in all. Now, what did he say? And you have he made alive. He's done the same thing to you already. Now, when you get to Corinthians, right? When you get to Corinthians, and he says in Corinthians, and in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 6 and 14, and Elul haveth raised up Adonai Yahushua, who also raised us up by his power. He has raised us up, quickened us, made us alive by his Ruach HaKodesh, right? If we die, right, he will quicken us in the fullness at that time, right? If we are alive and remain, he will quicken us at that time to be a full inheritor, to be as he was without measure. Listen. Know ye not that your body is a member of Yahushua HaMashiach? Yahushua HaMashiach said, destroy this temple in 3 days, I will build it back up. Yahushua HaMashiach was talking about he was talking in reference to the temple of Elul. He was talking about the temple, his body, where the Ruach HaKodesh dwells. He said, know ye not that your body are the members of Yahushua HaMashiach? And then shall I take the members and make them members with a harlot? Listen, it's deeper. Listen, this happened. You had people who had the Ruach and had joined themselves in fornication. He said, we don't do that. He said, no, what? Know ye not that they which are joined to a harlot is one body, the two shall be made one flesh? But that is joined unto Yahuwah is one spirit with Yahuwah. Listen. Understand that in the Ruach HaKodesh, you are one with Yahuwah. Your body becomes the temple of Yahuwah. That's the dedication. That's the dedication. That's the dedication. But he that is joined unto Adonai is one Ruach. One with the Ruach HaKodesh. You and me and you. You and me and you. Me and you and me. You told me that. Right? I am one with Yahuwah and Yahushua. I am joined to Yahuwah and Yahushua by the Ruach HaKodesh. He said, flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body, but the committed fornication sins against his own body, right? He sins against the temple of Yahuwah. He says in that 19th verse, what? Know ye not that your body is the temple of Yahuwah, of the Ruach HaKodesh? See, listen. Our history, our sanctified, set-apart days are to remember And point two, that which Yahushua HaMashiach did and made available to us. Right. When we call to remembrance Shlomo's prayer, it should remind us that we are now the temple of Yahuah. We are possessors of the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahusha and Yahuah in us. And it's not possible for me to sin. I cannot join myself with the harlot. I can't go to the law against my brother. I can't commit sins against the temple of Yahuah. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is in you? 2 Corinthians 6:19. It's in you. Which ye have received of Yahuah, and it's not as your own. Listen, what Judas Maccabees did, Yahuah honored. But what those Hellenized Herodians in the Pharisees and the Sadducees, right, these wicked leaders, right, wicked leaders, defiled again. Defiled again. They made it, they made it offer up pigs and all unclean things on the altar, right? But they themselves were unclean. They themselves didn't keep the Torah, and they were teaching men to walk in disobedience to the Torah. They allowed things to be done in the temple that were unclean, that was unholy, that was not set apart. They were allowing things in that physical temple, right? See, because in that physical temple, you will always have issues, right? Always have issues. After Hamashiach's revealed that the temple that was him, right? He was the temple. He was the house of Yahuah. He had the Ruach of Yahuah without measure. He had all power in the Shamayim and the Uretz. Yahusha. Now, we don't have all power in Shamayim and Uretz. And, I think I got to continue to say that because, you get people to say, oh, he said that, we were Els in the earth. Yeah, we Els because we have the Ruach HaKodesh in measure. We are born of Yahuah. We are born of Yahuah, right? So, yeah, we are Els. Yeah. Because we have a seed. We have the Ruach HaKodesh in us. But we don't have it without measure. But we're still the temple of Yahuah. Yahuah chose to put his Ruach in us. His Ruach in us. He said, listen. What, know ye not that your body is the temple of Yahuah? Your body is the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh. It's in you. Which you have of Yahuah, and you are not your own. Listen, Yahuah chose to put his Ruach in you. You asked for it. He gave it to you. But he chose you to receive his Ruach. You were bought with a price. It costs something for Yahuah to establish his kingdom in you. It costs something for Yahuah to put his Ruach in your temple. It costs something. Precious price. Yeah. Yahushua HaMashiach, his son. Right? The temple that was destroyed in 3 days, it was raised. Not this earthly physical temple, because that was destroyed. Right? And they gonna try to rebuild it and claim that it's rebuilt, but you ain't building no temple no more. You bringing it from the Shamayim. Y'all don't hear me. You ain't gave Ashkenaz any authority to build no temple. Listen, Yahuwah's raising up else. Because the kingdom is coming from the Shamayim. It ain't nothing that gonna get into the kingdom from the Shamayim. It's coming down to the Reds. There ain't nothing getting into the kingdom of Yahuwah that comes from the Shamayim down to the Reds. It's unclean. Listen, you were bought with a price. Yahushua HaMashiach. Therefore, glorify Yahuwah in your temple, which is the Ruach HaKodesh, which are Yahuwah's. The Ruach HaKodesh in you. You were purchased by the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, and that blood purchased your Yeshua. It seals you into the kingdom if you receive his Ruach HaKodesh. He said, therefore, glorify Yahuwah in your body. In your Ruach. Because your body has the Ruach. Which are God's. He says God's, but it's Yahuwah's, right? Meaning Yahuwah's possession. So Yahuwah stakes claim on his Ruach, him and the Son in you, and your body, because that's his too. Hallelujah. We talking about the Feast of Dedication. Yeah, we talking about being dedicated. We talking about a dedication that comes from the Ruach HaKodesh. We talking about receiving power. After that, the Ruach HaKodesh has come upon you. We talking about Yahushua being the temple of Yahuwah. Right? Yahushua being the temple of Yahuwah. And we're talking about that Yahuwah has joined his Ruach to us. Yahuwah, through Yahushua HaMashiach, has caused us to sit together in heavenly places in the Shamayim, right? Because we are now his temples, his dwellings. We belong to him. We are not our own. 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 We don't belong to ourselves. We are not our own. We are Yahuwah's. See, the price to establish the kingdom and the temple was through Yahushua HaMashiach. Yahushua HaMashiach established the temple. Yeah. He established the kingdom. He established the people. See, because you got to realize, the temple is the people. The kingdom is the people. And this people right? Because you can't have a kingdom without subjects. These subjects that have his Ruach HaKodesh will operate in his kingdom when his kingdom comes physically. Now, his kingdom has come because Yahushua Mashiach has ushered it in, right? But the kingdom is here in measure because we are here in measure. The inheritance is measured. Everything is measured, but the time is coming when in Yahushua HaMashiach that this kingdom will be established. And only those who have the Ruach HaKodesh is going in. Because they have recognized that they have been bought with a price. They know that their body is a temple of Yahuah. And listen, you ain't casting no devils out of people who have the Ruach HaKodesh. It ain't happening. Yahuah ain't sharing his temple with somebody that has a devil. It ain't happening. So get that out of your head. Oh, I got the Ruach HaKodesh. I got the Ruach HaKodesh. I got this devil. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have. No, you don't. You don't have the Ruach HaKodesh and have demons. You don't. They don't go together. They don't like the same. They can't occupy the same space. How is Hasatan going to tolerate Yahusha and Yahuah in you? Listen, when Philip went into Samaria, them demons came out screaming. They didn't want nothing to do with him. He had the Ruach HaKodesh. He didn't have it without measure. He had the same measure of Ruach HaKodesh that you and I would have. Right? Look, if he had demons would have moved. Listen. You are the temple of Yahuah. Your body is the temple of Yahuah. The signs that Yahushua had should follow you. You are the temple of Yahuah. Yahuwah's promise is. Let's read this. Yahuah says, and Yahuah in 2 Chronicles 7 and 12, and Yahuah appeared unto Shlomo by night and said unto him, I've heard your prayer. All that Shlomo had prayed in that 6th chapter, right? From the time that from the time that I started reading it up until the end, right? And I didn't go all the way to the end, but you should read it, right? He said, I've heard your prayer and have chosen this place to myself for an house of sacrifice. If I shut up the Shamayim that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, right? If my people, which are called by my name, his people, which are called by his name. Yasharal and Yehuda. Shlomo was talking about Israel. He's talking about the nation. He's talking about us. Scattered to the four corners of the earth. Talking about us. Not talking about the Gentiles. Talking about us. If my people, which are called by my name, right, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, and I shall hear from the Shamayim. I will forgive their sins and heal their lands. He's talking to his people because he has a covenant with his people. And Shlomo, in that 6th chapter, specified the covenant that he had made with Dawid, his father, and the nation. So, it's a perpetual covenant. He says, Now mine eyes shall be open and my ears attending to the prayers that is made in this place. For now I have chosen to sanctify this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and mine heart be there perpetually. Now listen, that's the same thing he said about the Ruach HaKodesh. This is the same thing he said about the Ruach HaKodesh. You are the temple of Yahuah. This is the same thing he said about his people, Yehudah, Yasharal, and those who receive Yahushua HaMashiach. He said, if I have chosen to sanctify this house, for ye are bought with a price. I have chosen to sanctify this house. Therefore, glorify Yahuah in your body, in this house, right, that I've chosen to sanctify, with my Ruach HaKodesh, because it belongs to me. Right? Right? He that is joined unto Yahuah is one spirit with Yahuah. Right? For now I have chosen to sanctify this temple. Ye are the temple of Yahuah. That my name, we are named by the name of Yahuah. We have received this Ruach HaKodesh. I just read to you where he says the Ruach and the body is his. My house, that my name may be put there. He put his name, Yahuah, in you. Yahusha, in you. The Ruach HaKodesh in you is his name. And you know what? He said, forever. You are eternals. This inheritance is eternal life. Forever. And mine eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. Yahuah loves his. Yahushua says, if you love me, keep my commandments, as I've kept the Father's commandments. This is how you demonstrate your love for me, by obeying me and walking in the Ruach HaKodesh. You're going to receive the Ruach HaKodesh, but you love me and I love you because you keep my command. Yahuah shows mercies unto thousands. Exodus 20:6, of them that love him and keep his commandments. The love of Yahuah is shed abroad in our hearts by Yahushua HaMashiach. Listen, we belong to Yahuah. He's put his Ruach in us. We are now sons of Yahuah. Listen. First Yuchanan 3:2, beloved, now are we the sons of Yahuah. Right? And it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. Every man that haveth this hope purifies himself even as he is pure, sets himself apart. The Ruach HaKodesh, constantly maintaining yourself in righteousness through obedience to the commandments, walking in Torah, not joining yourself with fornicators, not sinning, not violating the Torah, right? We are not under the law, right? We are not under, because Sin is a violation of the law. When you're under sin, you're under the law. But when we aren't in sin, we are not under a law because we're made perfect. The law is for those who are lawless, not for those who have been made righteous through Yahushua HaMashiach, his blood, and have received the Ruach HaKodesh and walk in the commandments. By your Ruach HaKodesh. He said, beloved, now we the sons of Yahuwah, if it does not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. That first verse says, beloved, what manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of Yahuwah. What manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of Yahuwah. 1 Corinthians 6:20, we are bought with a price. Therefore glorify Yahuwah in your bodies, which is Yahuwah's. His Ruach and your body belongs to him. What, know ye not that you are the temple of Yahuwah? You have been dedicated to Yahuwah by Yahusha and the Ruach HaKodesh. You are now dedicated. You are the temple of Yahuwah. You are the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh, Yahuwah, and Yahusha in you. Which ye have of Yahuwah, and you are not your own. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, the feast of dedication. It's greater than the temple made with hands. Shlomo said, look, you are greater than the Shamayim and the Arets. You can't be housed in this building. Yahuwah let it be destroyed. After the first captivity, it was destroyed. Then he allowed them to go build it up again. And then they allowed these Hellenistic Jews to accept the Greek culture and religion and start practicing all that sports and arena stuff, and began offering up sacrifices of unclean animals and things in the temple of Yahuwah. And then Yahuwah got a man named Judas Maccabees and some brethrens of his, and they all got together and was wroth, angry, and went to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah gave them strength to go in and clean it out. Didn't matter if they was Hebrews. They got it. They put it on them, right? Because you're wicked. It's not the culture of Yahuwah. This is Greek. This ain't no Omega Psi Phi, Beta Appa Kappa. It ain't that. I'm telling you, man. There's Hebrews that still Hellenized. Oh yeah, what they do? What they do that? They Hellenized. They Hellenized. They Hellenized. They still Hellenized. They don't know Yahuwah or Yahusha. They lost. Yeah, they lost. They lost, man. I'm telling you. They lost. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, we give Yahuwah praise for the dedication. We give him praise right now in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach for all those who have went before us. Yahuwah, we know that you don't dwell in temples made with hands. Yahuwah, we recognize that Yahushua was the temple that replaced the buildings made with hands. Yahushua attempted to sweep it clean himself with a whip, driving out everything that was unrighteous. But Yahushua himself knew that the temple would be destroyed in 3 days but be raised again. He knew that the plan was to bring redemption, to put into man your Ruach, to make him your temple, for him to belong to you like Yahushua belonged to you. Yahuah, I give you praise. I give you praise. You've made us elves. By your Ruach HaKodesh, you've quickened us. You've raised us, seated us together in heavenly places. And in this righteous temple, this Ruach-filled temple, we don't sin. We don't commit a fornication. We don't, because we don't. It's not in us. You do not share your temple with this. So these devils don't have the Ruach HaKodesh and Yahuah we need for you to quicken them. Make them alive. Help them to realize, those who have an ear to hear, that they need to give their lives to Yahushua HaMashiach, be baptized and receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuah, I give you praise. Now, Father, the words you've given me, I've given them. Excuse me, and by your Ruach HaKodesh, I pray that they would receive them. That they would walk in a newness of life. That they would continue to be renewed in the Ruach of their minds. Yahuah, renew them in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. And for that, I give you praise. Listen, man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Woman of Yahuah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Listen, today Yahuah has favored you. It is a wonderful day of celebration for us, right? Because we recognize what was done as dedicated, committed people at the time in which they were done, that were of the nation, our ancestors. Yahuah, we give you praise. Yahuah, I thank you. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Woman of Yahuah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Today, listen, Yahuah's favored you. And enjoy this feast, this day of dedication, this week of set-apart dedication unto Yahuah. Yes. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Yes. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. And with that, I say Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.